power, movement, punch selection, and IQ. That's exactly what I did. Got all out.
Take one of them interviews.
I work extremely hard. I get doubted all the time, but you know, this is how I show what type of man I am and how hard I'm working to make my point. Just trying to get the biggest and best fights. Archer better be here. Unified World Championship for what's weight class. Wherever the danger's at, that's where I'm going.
We just saw Benavidez stop Zurdo. What do you think about the fight, Mike?
Great fight.
Lived up to the nickname, didn't he?
He did well. He did well.
Right here. What would you like to see next for Benavidez, Mike? All right.
Oh, big champ.
We just saw Benavidez stop Zurdo. What do you think about the matchup?
Beautiful. It was, look, I mean, that's the way I called it, is the buzzsaw of Benavidez, punches and bunches. And the only shot that Zurdo had was kind of, you know, throw a punch right in the center. So obviously the speed was too much. Benavidez was too much. The monster's here for a long time. So I'm very proud of him. But the whole night from top to bottom was excellent. Probably one of the best cards we've ever put.
Absolutely. What do you think is next for Benavidez? What would you like to see? I thought we couldn't hear back here, but maybe he was talking about b-ball. Is that something that looks like is coming up next?
He's got many options. He's got many options. So I think right now he is the man at that weight class. So whoever's going to fight him has to wait in line, because there's several fighters like b-ball, like you know, all the top guys. So including you know, just all the world champions. But Benavidez right now is the man.
What I said was that, you know, Benavidez is a monster. He's just like, you never seen somebody that's so tall, so big, be that fast. It's like he's super fast, you know what I mean? And he has power too. So at the end of the day, you know, I tip my hand off to Benavidez. He's a Mexican monster.
Now, what's next for him, man? Should he stay here? I mean, Zurdo's never even been knocked down. He knocked him down twice and out.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, he's just got it all. He's right now, you know, he's one of my favorite fighters, and you know, I wish him the best.
Canelo left before the main event, man. Was that a good idea?
Hold on, where's my weapon?
I think it was a 10 out of 10, spectacular. Who would have thought that someone who thought that someone like that could do to a cruiserweight, you know?
What would be next for David? I mean, you got, you know...
Bro, what did he say? What did he say post-fight? Man, I would love to see like a better BF or a Bivol. Just like, I'd love to see like him just smashing everything in light heavyweights.
Down a little bit more on Benavidez. You were in camp with him a few times and everything, and see what he's done. So just talk about the speed and everything that he went through.
The skill set he showcases, man. You know, he'll put the punches together, man. But it's the right punches, bro. His skill set is unmatched. You know, I feel like Benavidez can do whatever he wants right now and beat up on whoever he wants.
Bro. So what you want us to remember about you? This is Marcus Hayes with Fight Hub TV.
Fuck, I just want to be that type of fighter that always took the biggest and craziest chances.
I'm looking for the post fight.
You know what I mean? It's all good. You know what I mean? I'm just very happy with this, bro. I'm happy to continue to challenge myself. You know, the harder the challenge, the harder I push myself. So at the end of the day, this is what I'm here for. I'm not here to take no easy rides and fuck. You know, if you don't put yourself in those challenges, in those moments of stress, you never know how good you can be or how great you can become. So wherever the hardest fight is at, that's what I want to be at. And I made that decision a long, long time ago. You know, these moments are scary, but at the end of the day, this is what I'm made for.
Did you hear Mike Tyson's commentary during the matchup? What he said?
Nah, I didn't. I didn't.
Mike Tyson said that he wanted Zurdo to stop hitting on you, that he wanted you to stop letting him hit on you. But I talked to him after the fight, and he said, yeah, that you're a legend.
Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, I was there because I didn't really feel nothing, bro. At the end of the day, I didn't feel no power. I felt I took every punch pretty well, so I mean, thank you, brother. Thank you so much. So I'm just happy with this victory, bro. Thank you so much.
Roy had favored Benavidez to win against Ramirez, saying their sparring sessions had already exposed a weakness that Benavidez could use. He had believed that pressure and pace would have allowed him to take control of the fight early.
Benavidez versus Zurdo Ramirez.
That's a good fight. I can't wait to see that. I think Benavidez definitely beats Zurdo, but it's a great fight.
Spar with him, so you know it. I never spar with Ruiz. I know Ruiz. He sparred, so he know what he's dealing with. So, I mean, I think he's dealing with him anyway, but he know what he's dealing with. You know what I'm saying? So if he know what he's dealing with, of course I won't blame him. I go get it too. I know him. I know what he is. I know what it takes to beat him. I sparred him before I know what it takes to beat him. Ain't doing the right thing. So he's picking for him, go get him.
Tim had cautioned fans not to underestimate Ramirez at cruiserweight. He had also raised doubts about how Benavidez would have handled the jump in weight, suggesting that the new division could have tested his timing and strength under pressure.
I think Ramirez is kind of getting slept on. You got to understand that he's been at this weight for some time now. He's acclimated. This is David's first fight, man, at you know, cruiserweight, bro. Like, it's going to be different. I mean, I know he has the right style to give Ramirez fits. If he can still have the punch volume that he punches with and some hand speed, you know, I think his mobility is going to be a little bit different too. I mean,
25 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of weight, man. So, you know, I just worry about that, to be honest with you. But, I mean, Benavidez does have the style. I believe that it give Ramirez some issues. But stamina, you got to think about that. You got to think about it. Was power translate at that heavier weight? I mean, there's a lot to think about, you know, in this fight. A lot of questions.
Even with his doubts, Tim had still leaned toward Benavidez. He had praised his aggressive pressure and strong fighting spirit, expecting him to trouble Ramirez badly and possibly cause damage throughout the fight, even if a stoppage had not come.
I'm gonna go. Look. I'm gonna go with Benavidez because I think Benavidez is special, bro. I think he's special. I think he has what's internal needed to be, and he can pull it off, bro. You know, he has that little fat boy still in him, my boy. Hey, that little fat boy still in him, boy. Hey, that motherfucker, boy. Woo! Hey, he gonna bring it out. He got that dog in him, bro. And I think he gonna take Ramirez to that brink, bro. I don't think he gonna stop him, but I know he gonna put some work in.
Ryan had predicted a knockout win for Benavidez over Ramirez, saying the pressure and volume would have built up too much. He had believed the fight could have ended around round 7 once the pace had become too hard to handle.
Oh, for my prediction, David's gonna knock him out. David gonna sleep him. I think David stops him within 7 rounds. For sure, yeah.
Andre and Roy had both weighed in on the matchup, saying Benavidez could break Ramirez down over time. Andre had worried about the jump to cruiserweight and its impact on performance, while Roy had disagreed, saying the move up would not slow him and he was built for it.
How's he gonna carry that weight? Is the volume gonna be the way that it was previously at super middleweight, light heavyweight? And is the conditioning gonna be there? If it is, he's go ahead, talk to me.
Most of his training is at that weight.
Yeah, over 200, really. Over 200,
exactly.
Really. Yeah.
Most of his training is at that weight. How could he possibly not carry it? How could he do all of his training pretty much at that weight? So how could he, exactly, so how could he not be the same
sometimes,
guy?
Man. That's like that with everybody.
Not for him.
Everybody cutting
Not
up.
for him. Yeah, but not for him. He's cutting differently.
Well,
He's been a big guy the whole time.
We gonna see.
Okay.
Right?
If you ever see him outside of a fight, you understand that this dude, this is nothing for him.
At the same time, Andre had warned against underestimating Ramirez, highlighting his experience as a 3-time world champion. However, he still felt Benavidez held the edge in this matchup due to his unbeaten record and proven durability, especially his ability to stay on his feet and avoid being knocked down under pressure in the fight.
So
I'm guessing, but he might get 210, 215 or something like that, maybe more. He just got a big frame.
I think he gets bigger.
Yeah, he got a big frame. So this may be the sweet spot for him. This may be just where he needs to be. But he's got the age advantage. He's younger. He's 29 years old. He's got less miles.
That's the big thing.
Right?
Yep.
He has never been beaten. So anytime you've been knocked down or beat, that you wear that. That's a scar you got to wear. He don't have that scar going into this fight.
None.
But Zurdo does. I like Zurdo's style. He's tall, he's rangy, and he's steady and consistent. He's got good punch selection. He's got good pop. I mean, he's a 3-time world champion for a reason.
Andre had highlighted that Ramirez's steady pressure style could have helped him survive and respond in difficult exchanges, even under heavy attack. At the same time, he had questioned how Benavidez would have handled the jump in weight, especially against a 3-time world champion. Despite Benavidez's speed, power, and aggression, Ward had suggested the move could have tested his timing, endurance, and control throughout the fight.
Zurdo Ramirez can weather those storms without taking too much punishment and getting hit too much and keep that thing tight into the back half of the stretch. He's got a shot to try to implement his style, which is pressure and just that grinding presence. But he also can box when he wants to as well. And I want to see how much he boxes and how much he fights, because in our interview with him, it sounded like he want to do both all at the same time, and you can't do both all at the same time. You got to choose when to box and when to slug. And for David Benavidez, man, can he conquer another weight class? Can he go out there and become a 2-time cruiserweight champion and then a 5-time world champion on this Cinco de Mayo weekend just for one fight and one fight alone? That's the questions we have. So,
giving his prediction, Andre had slightly favored Benavidez with a 60-40 edge. Still, he had warned that Ramirez could not be taken lightly. Ward had pointed out that Benavidez carried a style many opponents had failed to solve, with non-stop pressure and aggression causing constant problems. Because of that, he had believed there was no clear formula to beat him, which had made the matchup even more interesting and unpredictable going into fight night.
I don't have a prediction, but I think it's going to be a great fight that I give David Benavidez a slight edge to, right? This is a 60-40 situation for me, maybe a little bit more in his favor, maybe 65-35, but that's just because he hasn't lost. We haven't seen that blueprint. And even if guys have good rounds, they don't have good fights against him. Ultimately, they wear down mentally, physically, emotionally, and David Benavidez takes over, and he ultimately stops guys or beats them up and gets his hand raised. Will that happen again against 2-time cruiserweight champion Zurdo Ramirez on Cinco de Mayo?
Malik Scott had been confident that his fighter was a strong and dangerous threat for David, believing he had the tools to handle the pressure. However, Mike had completely rejected that idea, saying the matchup would not play out that way in the ring. At the same time, Max Kellerman had shared his view that this fight had been different in every possible way, pointing to style clash, timing, and momentum as key deciding factors.
Benavidez and Bivol have different styles, and I think what this really comes down to more than anything, we acknowledge Benavidez is the guy moving up, right? And that Zurdo's not a bad fighter. So the real question is, as I mentioned, in all of the upsets where the bigger guy was the underdog, he was a special fighter. And Mike does not believe Zurdo's special. I think you think he's good but not special. And Malik is here to tell you he is special. He's better than he looked against Bivol, who has a bad style for everyone. Bivol's really good. And time will tell. It always does. We don't have to wait long, guys. This is not only the biggest fight between two fighters of Mexican heritage at this heavy a weight ever, but it's also in the great tradition, in the great boxing tradition of Mexican-American versus Mexican fighter.
Breaking it down with his expert analysis, Max had pointed to examples from the classic era where the more well-rounded fighter had usually come out on top. He had explained that those patterns often repeated when styles clashed at the highest level. At the same time, he had suggested that Benavidez faced a serious challenge because of the weight difference, which could have affected his speed, balance, and ability to maintain control throughout the fight.
Another 2-to-1 underdog in 2001, Felix Trinidad, who rampaged through welterweight and junior middleweight, moved up to middleweight to compete in a tournament where he eventually met Bernard Hopkins in the finals. Trinidad, 2-to-1 favorite, as I mentioned, was comprehensively outboxed and finally stopped in the 12th and final round. Now, by the way, same thing, I could give you other examples. Donald Curry against Mike McCallum, 2-to-1 underdog. The bigger guy was the 2-to-1 underdog, scored a knockout. In each of these fights, the smaller favored fighter was upset, partly because the bigger guy was a more well-rounded fighter, and partly because the smaller guy was more affected by the shots of the bigger fighter than he'd been by the shots of fighters in his natural weight class, especially because the bigger guy was also a special fighter. So if Malik, if there's a pattern here, it seems to me, you have to hope that your guy, that Zurdo, is not only more well-rounded than Benavidez, but that Benavidez's punch resistance won't be the same at cruiserweight. I yield the floor to Malik.
The fight during Cinco de Mayo weekend had been pulling massive attention from fans and media. While Max had shared examples from legendary past fights to explain the stakes, Malik had believed this matchup was even bigger. He had stressed that there was a lot on the line for both fighters, with careers, momentum, and legacy all tied into the outcome, making it one of the most important clashes in recent memory for both sides.
Guys, do you think there is special significance in the big fight between Mexican and Mexican-American? Malik, do you think there is? And if so, what is it?
I think I'm going to consider Cinco de Mayo. I think Mexican versus Mexican is extremely special. But you know what it makes me think of, Max? It makes me think of a fight I've been doing a lot of film studying on recently. It makes me think of when Julio Cesar Chavez fought Edwin Rosario. Now, one was Puerto Rican and one was Mexican, but the intensity that fight came with, and how the fans got behind it, and how Rosario fought his heart out. And I'm talking about fought his heart out off the rope 80% of the fight. The difference with Benavidez and Zurdo, like you say all the time, Max, these just bigger men. And I've never seen Mexican versus Mexican at this high level type of fight with this much at stake, with two big men doing it.
Giving their final predictions, Mike Coppinger had backed Benavidez, aligning with Max Kellerman's view that his pressure and pace would have been too much over the long run. On the other side, Scott had taken the opposite stance, firmly believing Ramirez would have found a way to control the fight and come out on top. With both experts split, the matchup had been seen as a true 50-50 battle going into the final buildup.
Final prediction, Max. I'm going to say Benavidez by decision in a good, tough fight, but I think he's going to win something like 117, 111, 118, 110.
Sounds about right. Malik, what about you?
Not that. Wow, that was very good of you, Mike, right there. And I would call that very fair. I don't want to go too far with the scorecards and what I think, but I just believe it's going to be fight of the year, and I have Zurdo Ramirez winning by decision.
When the bigger guy wins, Malik, in every example I gave you, it's by knockout. It's always by it's Gomez knocking out Zarate, Sanchez knocking out Gomez, Hopkins knocking out Trinidad, McCallum knocking out Curry. I like Benavidez, just like Mike said, by a tough decision. I even like, Mike, your scores. It'll be wide but competitive. Coming up.
As the countdown had begun, Benavidez had remained the clear favorite in most discussions. Chris Algieri had reflected that almost everyone he had spoken to was backing Benavidez as the rising face of boxing. He had also suggested that if he had gotten past Ramirez, the natural next step could have been a major clash with Bivol. That idea had only added more excitement, with fans already thinking beyond this fight before it had even taken place.
He is a star. He can take over this sport. He can be the face of boxing. He really can be. I truly believe that. In the way that he speaks, the way that he fights, the way that he carries himself, I think he has everything you need to be that guy. If the run that he potentially might have, if he wins this fight and then gets the Bivol fight this year, by 2027, we could be looking at the new face of boxing. I'm just putting that out there right now. But now, let's talk about this fight, because there's a lot of steps before we get into that. Yeah, this is a really tough fight. And I'm surprised at how many people I speak to, no one is giving Zurdo a chance. No one. Vegas, especially. Vegas, it's getting wider. It's like 4-1. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's growing.
At the same time, Chris had pointed out that Ramirez carried a clear size advantage, and his speed and timing, along with the way he closed distance, could have played a major role in the matchup. According to him, Ramirez was expected to find early success by using pressure and movement in the opening rounds. However, he had also hinted that the fight could have become much tougher for him as it went deeper and the pace started to shift.
Yeah, Zurdo's 34. That's an issue, but he's going to be the bigger man in there. And on top of that, he's very, very skilled, and he's determined, and he has a good gas tank for a big guy. He's super durable. The way he changes levels, the way he rolls out to the weak side, the fighting at a distance, mid and long range, he's very, very good there. And Benavidez does some things that you look at and you're like, I know he makes it work. He walks in very high guard, very tall for a tall fighter. Not a big level change guy, but he's just got fast hands. He closes the distance. He kind of trods his way in. There's places where Zurdo, especially early on, can have some really, really good success. You know, I'm not saying he has footwork like Caleb Plant, who Caleb Plant had very good early success against Benavidez, but I think with the size, the length, the southpaw position, the way he slides and moves, the level changes, this could be really interesting and a bit of a nail biter early on.
Heading into the fight, the main concern around Benavidez had been his move up in weight, but Chris had pushed back on that argument. He had said that while Ramirez had solid cruiserweight qualities, Benavidez still led in key areas like hand speed and volume punching. According to him, that had been why so many people backed Benavidez, believing those strengths would have played a decisive role once the fight had started.
Zurdo has very slow feet.
Yeah.
Benavidez does not have fast feet, but he has faster feet. And in terms of hand speed, on paper and at the weight classes, you would think David Benavidez has way faster hands, which very well may be the case. But again, you mentioned at this weight, he's not as busy as he's moving up. 75, he's not as busy as he used to be at 68. Is he going to be as busy at 199? Probably not. But is he going to be busier and faster than Zurdo? Probably. So this is one of those fights where I think a lot of the advantages that Zurdo has over the other cruiserweights are things that David has also and has better. And that's why most people and Vegas are looking at this fight the way they are, and everyone's picking David. I'm still picking David because of that reason. I just think that everything that Zurdo does well and is an advantage at cruiserweight, David does better.
As the predictions had come in, Dan had believed the first quarter of the fight would have favored Ramirez as he started strong and controlled the early rhythm. However, he had expected Benavidez to take over in the middle rounds, turning it into a close battle where his speed and punching power began to show. As the rounds had gone on, Dan had felt that pressure and output would have given Benavidez the edge in a tight decision.
Started off, I think it's going to be a very nip and tuck battle for the first 8-9 rounds. Back and forth, both guys throwing in the 50s, having their moments. But then you're going to see the youthful exuberance that you talked about, the willingness, the will of David Benavidez, the combination punching, the speed, about to take over. In the last quarter of the fight, Benavidez wins a competitive.
Chris had noted that Benavidez would not have taken control early in the fight, with the opening round slightly favoring Ramirez due to size and timing. However, he had believed that as the fight progressed, Ramirez's lower output and slowing speed would have become an issue. By the mid-rounds, Benavidez was expected to take over with relentless pressure and heavy punches, possibly leading to a stoppage or clear dominance.
I think Zurdo is going to come out and bank a bunch of rounds early on. Again, I did a lot of study this week and looking at Zurdo's ability as a tall man, a big man. He changes levels really well, and he's very good using the southpaw stance to stay invisible. He goes to that weak side a lot, and he's not looking to land the big shots from the middle distance and long distance. He'll stay on the outside and he'll pot shot with long 1-2s and 1s. He does a 1-2-1 really nice. He jabs off his rear hand really nice as he cuts out to that side. I think the slower feet and the data analyzing or data collecting that Benavidez does early is going to lead to an early lead for Zurdo. And then again, that my favorite word, the youthful exuberance, favorite term, the youthful exuberance is going to take over in the mid rounds. And I think Benavidez, we're going to see Zurdo start putting himself on the ropes, and we're going to see Benavidez just beating him up because that's what he does. Benavidez beats the shit out of you.
On the other hand, Oscar De La Hoya had not held back in his view of the fight, making a bold claim that Benavidez had no real chin. He had said that while Benavidez threw every punch with power, that same aggression had left openings. Oscar had warned that even if Benavidez was landing on Ramirez, it only took one clean shot from Ramirez to change everything and possibly turn the fight in his favor.
Styles make fights, obviously, and I've watched many Benavidez fights. I've watched many Zurdo fights. Obviously, I promote them. But Benavidez throws a lot of punches. Doesn't throw everything with power. And he doesn't really have a good chin. Okay? I mean, Zurdo, on the other hand, takes his time. It's very calculated. But every punch he throws, it's hard. It's got bad intention. all it takes in one exchange, when Benavidez is throwing punches and bunches, all it takes is one. That's all it takes, and it can change the fight. So I'm gonna go with Benavidez by a haymaker.
Giving his thoughts, Robert Garcia had criticized Ramirez, saying he was not a fully disciplined fighter and pointing out several loopholes and flaws in his style. In contrast, he had believed Benavidez had shown stronger commitment to boxing, proving himself through dominant performances and solid skill. Even though he had seen weaknesses in both fighters, Garcia had insisted the matchup remained highly unpredictable while also being extremely exciting, keeping fans fully engaged and unsure of what would have happened.
Great fight, man. You know, Benavidez has always shown the world, you know, the type of fighter he is. I think Zurdo Ramirez is a little more. Sometimes you question his dedication to the sport, his discipline. We've seen a few things that he's, you know, kind of got in trouble, a few things, but so has Benavidez. So both are gonna go out there and do their work. Benavidez is just a dog in the ring. I think Zurdo's more of a technical fighter that has great skills. So it's gonna make it a good fight.
And after everything that had been said before the fight, the reactions now told the real story. Every prediction, warning, and bold claim had been tested inside the ring, and fans were left breaking down what actually happened versus what was expected. Some calls had aged perfectly, while others had fallen apart under pressure. Now the debate only gets louder as everyone tries to explain how the fight really unfolded. If you enjoyed this post-fight breakdown, make sure to subscribe, like, and share for more reactions, analysis, and boxing updates.